All right, if you're a behavioral health clinician practicing in Colorado, this explainer is for you. We're going to walk through the Rocky Mountain Health Plan system step by step. The goal here is to get you comfortable with the process so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time doing what you do best, caring for your patients.
First things first, you've got to understand that Colorado's Medicaid system is broken up by region. This map shows you those different regions, each managed by what's called a Regional Accountable Entity, or RAE. Rocky Mountain Health Plans, RMHP, is the RAE for that huge chunk on the western slope, Region 1. Honestly, knowing which RAE your patient belongs to is pretty much the key to everything else we're going to talk about.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with your role in the big picture, then cover how to join and what's expected of you. After that, we'll get into patient care standards, tackle the all-important prior authorizations, and finally, we'll wrap up with how to get your claims paid.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1. This is all about getting you oriented to the RMHP network and your role in it.
So, what in the world is an RAE? You can think of it as the main coordinator for your patient's healthcare. RMHP's job as the RAE for Region 1 is to manage both physical and behavioral health services. The whole idea is to create a system that treats the whole person, making sure your patient's care is integrated and, actually works for them.
Now that you get the lay of the land, let's talk about the practical side of things, how you actually get into the network so you can start seeing patients.
It's really a pretty straightforward two-step process. First, and this is the big one, you absolutely must be enrolled and up to date with the state's program, Health First Colorado. No skipping that step. Once that's handled, you move on to Step 2, completing the specific credentialing for RMHP, which you'll do through the Optum Provider Express portal. Okay, so once you're in, these are the core rules of the road. We're going to harp on eligibility in a second, but notice it's number 1 for a reason. You're also on the hook for making sure care is accessible, which means providing interpreters or accommodations when needed, at no cost to your patient. And this last one is so important. You cannot, under any circumstances, bill a Medicaid member for covered services, copays, or even missed appointments.
All right, let's move on from the setup to the actual patient care. We'll see how those responsibilities we just talked about play out in the real world, starting with eligibility.
This quote right here says it all. If you remember one administrative task, let it be this one. You have to verify a patient's eligibility before every single service. Why? Because a patient's status can change from month to month, and if you don't check, you're looking at a denied claim. It's that simple.
So where do you go to check? The one and only source of truth is the state's official interchange portal. I know it's tempting to just glance at the member's ID card, but that's not enough. Their RAE can actually change if they get a new primary care doc. The interchange portal is the only place with real-time, accurate info.
And this table here is incredibly important for access to care. As a clinician, these are the timelines you need to hit. If someone has an urgent need, they need to be seen within 24 hours. A new patient with symptoms, 7 days. And look at that post-hospitalization follow-up, also 7 days. That's a really critical window to help prevent someone from ending up right back in the hospital. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the services you're providing. Now, your standard outpatient therapy session usually doesn't need pre-approval, but for higher levels of care, that's a different story. And that brings us to prior authorizations. This list covers the big ones that need a green light from RMHP before you can start. We're talking about the whole spectrum of intensive care here, from inpatient and residential all the way to IOP and ECT. The decisions are all based on medical necessity, using intra-qual criteria to make sure the level of care is right for the patient.
Seeing that list probably makes you wonder, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do in a real emergency?
And the answer is crystal clear. You never, ever need a prior authorization for a true emergency. If a patient's life or health is in immediate danger, you provide the care they need to get stable. Period. The system is set up so there is zero administrative hoops to jump through in those critical moments.
So, you've delivered the care, your patient is doing better. Now for the final piece of the puzzle, making sure you get reimbursed for your work.
Okay, pay close attention here, because this is a spot where people can easily get tripped up. Where you send the claim actually depends on the member's plan. For most RIE members, you send your behavioral health claims to us at RMHP, but their physical health claims back goes somewhere else, to a group called Gainwell. Now for Prime and CHP Plus members, it's way simpler. Everything, physical and behavioral, comes right to RMHP.
So what happens if a claim gets denied? First of all, don't panic. There's a clear process. Your first move is to ask for a claim reconsideration, which you can do pretty easily online through the UHC provider portal.
If that doesn't fix it, then you can file a formal written appeal. Just keep an eye on the calendar. You only have 60 days from that original denial to get your appeal in.
And to pull this all together, think of this slide as your cheat sheet. These are the phone numbers, emails, and websites for pretty much everything we've covered today, from calling provider services to checking that all-important eligibility portal. I definitely recommend keeping this info somewhere handy in your office.
Well, we really hope this guide helps you navigate the system with a lot more confidence. The whole point is to make the administrative stuff feel less overwhelming. And that really brings us to the final question for you to think about. As you look at all these steps, how can you build them into your day-to-day workflow so you can maximize your time with patients?